It was supposed to be the perfect birthday. A night that would be remembered forever. A romantic surprise. A moment of laughter. Fireworks under the stars. But instead, it became a tragedy so horrifying, so unbelievable, that even years later, people still struggle to understand how something so innocent could turn into something so deadly. This is the story of Risa and Hiroki Demura. A young couple, newly married, deeply in love, and completely unaware that one small mistake would become the difference between life and death. On the night of August 25, 2011, inside a quiet apartment in Kanazawa City, Japan, a 23-year-old woman named Risa Demura sat curled up on a couch beside her husband. His name was Hiroki. The TV in front of them glowed softly in the dark room, and both of them were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. They were watching their favorite show. A ridiculous hidden camera prank series, the kind where celebrities were tricked into falling into absurd traps, and every episode ended with laughter and relief. For Risa and Hiroki, it was the highlight of their evenings. Because they were still living in that rare, magical stage of marriage, the honeymoon phase. They had only been married for 4 months. 4 months of feeling like the luckiest people alive. Whenever Hiroki wasn't working, they were together. Always. They went out for dinner, walked through the city at night, took trips to the coast, because Kanazawa was close enough to the ocean that the beach felt like an extension of their home. And every time they stood near the water, Risa would squeeze Hiroki's hand and smile, as if she couldn't believe this was real. What made their love story even more special was the fact that it wasn't new. Risa and Hiroki had technically known each other since middle school. Back then, Hiroki had been the quiet boy, the type who stayed in the background, who never raised his voice, who never made bold moves. Risa, on the other hand, was full of energy, always talking, always smiling, always surrounded by friends. To her, Hiroki was just another shy classmate, someone she noticed, but never truly knew. Years passed. Life moved on. They went to college, became adults, and then, one day, by pure coincidence, they ran into each other again. Older, different, but somehow familiar. And that was when Hiroki did something Risa never expected. He confessed. Not casually, not jokingly. He looked her in the eyes and admitted that he had loved her since they were kids, that he never stopped, that even after all these years, she was still the person he thought about. Risa was stunned, because deep down, she had always felt something too. She just never thought he felt the same. And in that moment, their story began. A whirlwind of dates, late-night conversations, endless laughter. And within a year, they were married. Hiroki worked at a company in Kanazawa City. And he was doing well, really well. Every co-worker Risa met would say the same thing. He's hardworking, he's dependable, he's a natural leader. Risa would always smile proudly. But what mattered most wasn't his job. It was how he treated her. To Hiroki, Risa wasn't just his wife, she was everything. He supported her dreams, even though she didn't fully know what those dreams were yet. Risa had a restless curiosity. She bounced from interest to interest, trying to figure out what she wanted her life to become. And Hiroki never pressured her, never judged her. He always said, "As long as you're happy, I'm happy." To Risa, that kind of love felt unreal, like something out of a romance film. That night, as they laughed at the prank show, Risa's smile slowly faded. Not because she wasn't happy, but because something was weighing on her mind. Hiroki's birthday was coming up, and she felt pressure. Not from him, but from herself. Because Hiroki always made her feel special. On her birthday, he planned thoughtful surprises, private, sweet gestures, things that made her feel adored. And now, this was going to be the first birthday they celebrated as husband and wife. Risa didn't want it to be ordinary. She didn't want to underwhelm him. She wanted to do something unforgettable. Something that would prove just how much she loved him. But the more she thought, the more blank her mind became. What do you give someone who already gives you everything? Then suddenly, like a flash of lightning, an idea struck her. A perfect image formed in her mind. A romantic beach walk, the sound of waves, the night air. And then, a surprise. Fireworks exploding in the sky, just for him. Over the top, dramatic, romantic. Exactly like her. Risa's heart raced. Yes, this was it. This was the birthday he would never forget. She could already imagine his face. The quiet smile. The surprise in his eyes. She decided right then. She was going to make it happen. No matter what. Saturday afternoon, Risa stood on Osaki Beach with 6 of her closest friends. The sun was still up, the sand was warm, and the ocean stretched endlessly beside them. This was the place. Tonight, this beach would become the stage for Hiroki's birthday surprise. Her friends were there to help set everything up. Because fireworks weren't something you could do alone. They walked along the shore, searching for the perfect secluded spot. Somewhere private. Somewhere romantic. Somewhere hidden. So her friends could stay out of sight until the right moment. They found it. A quiet section of beach, backed by thick shrubs. A natural hiding place. Risa smiled. This is perfect. Her friends climbed into the bushes, preparing the fireworks, while Risa walked down to the sand and spread out a large blue sheet. A marker, a signal. This would be where she and Hiroki would stand. When the fireworks began, everything was coming together. As they left, Risa told them, "Be here tonight, 10 p.m. Her friends nodded, and just like that, the plan was set. Back home, Risa could barely sit still. She was buzzing with excitement. But she had to act normal. Hiroki couldn't suspect anything. She made dinner. They ate together. She smiled. She laughed. And then, later, when the night grew late, Risa finally spoke. "Hiroki, it's your birthday weekend. Let's not go to bed yet. Let's go for a walk on the beach." Hiroki looked surprised, then smiled softly. "That sounds nice." Risa's heart pounded. This was it. The surprise was about to happen, and she had no idea that within hours, both of them would be gone. Forever. The night had fallen over Osaki Beach. Risa and Hiroki drove quietly along the narrow road that ended near the sand. Bushes pressed close to the sides, and the path leading to the beach was barely visible in the moonlight. Risa's heart raced. She held Hiroki's hand tightly, pulling him along. "Come on, just a little further," she whispered. Hiroki, ever calm and careful, hesitated. I don't know, Risa. It's really dark. We can't see anything. Maybe we should go back and get a flashlight." But Risa shook her head. "No, it's fine. My friends are already there. We have to get to the blanket before they light the fireworks. We can't be late." Hiroki frowned but followed her, trusting her judgment. The sand beneath their feet was soft, uneven, and completely black in the night. Even the phones they pulled out to use as lights barely helped. The dim screens gave off only a pale glow, not nearly enough to see more than a few feet ahead. And then, it started to feel wrong. The beach, usually familiar and peaceful, felt alien. The waves lapped quietly at the shore, almost too quiet. The darkness was thick, pressing in around them like a living thing. Risa walked faster, almost dragging Hiroki along. He struggled to keep up. "What's going on, Risa?" he asked, his voice low. "Why are you walking so fast?" She paused, her excitement and nerves collided. She wanted to explain. She wanted him to know. But before she could speak, the world went black. No phone light, no moonlight, nothing. Just darkness. Back in the bushes, Risa's friends were trying to watch. They had prepared the fireworks, hidden behind the thick shrubs. But even they couldn't see clearly. They could hear voices. They thought it was Risa and Hiroki approaching. Then came the screams. High-pitched, terrified. Not the kind of screams from excitement or surprise. These were screams of terror. The friends froze. Was this part of the plan? Then silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. "No, something's wrong," one of them whispered. "We have to go check." They abandoned their hiding spots and ran onto the sand, calling out, searching. The blanket. The blue sheet. The place they were supposed to be. Nothing. The friends' eyes strained in the darkness. Every sound, the waves, the wind, the faint rustle of sand, made them jump. But they couldn't find them. Earlier, when Risa had dreamed up this perfect surprise, she had been inspired by a comedy show. A show called Arashi's Big Secret, where celebrities fell into hidden traps on the beach. Risa thought, what if Hiroki falls into a small hole, just like the show, and we light the fireworks for the big reveal? She had dug the hole 2 days ago, deep and wide, covered it with a piece of rigid plastic, and over that, the blue sheet. Her plan: the plastic would break, he would fall just a little, it would be funny, harmless. But she had miscalculated. Plastic is stronger than you think. Rigid, unyielding. As they walked along the dark beach, Risa didn't see the hole beneath their feet. Neither did Hiroki. And then, without warning, the plastic shifted. It didn't snap. It tilted. And the sand collapsed beneath them. They tumbled forward, head first. The sand swallowed them instantly. The screams that the friends had heard were real, buried alive. The friends ran toward the blue sheet, but all they could see was a mound of sand. No light, no movement, only the sound of waves and the occasional echo of distant panic. One of them shouted, "Risa." Hiroki, no answer. Another friend started digging frantically. Sand flew everywhere, hands bleeding from rocks and shells. They dug deeper. But the hole was deep. The sand was wet, heavy, suffocating. Time was slipping. Every second counted. And yet, despite their efforts, it was too late. By the time the authorities arrived, alerted by frantic calls from the friends, the sand had already claimed them. Risa and Hiroki Demura. The young couple, madly in love, full of life, had been buried alive by a birthday surprise gone horribly, fatally wrong. It's easy to laugh at a prank. It's easy to imagine fireworks, laughter, joy. But sometimes, even the best intentions, even love, can turn into tragedy in an instant. The darkness of the beach, the misjudged materials, the excitement and haste, a perfect storm, and a life ended before it should have. By the time Risa's friends realized something had gone terribly wrong, panic had completely taken over. They ran across the beach, their shoes sinking into the wet sand, shouting Hiroki and Risa's names into the darkness. The waves lapped eerily at the shore, masking some of their voices. Every step seemed heavier than the last. Every moment stretched unbearably long. They reached the approximate spot where Risa had placed the blue sheet, but all they saw was nothing. No blanket, no footprints, only the sand, unbroken, except for small patches where it seemed disturbed. It was then that the screams echoed in their minds. They had been real, not part of any joke. And that realization froze them. One friend dropped to their knees. They began digging frantically, bare hands clawing into the heavy sand. Every handful felt heavier than it should. Every scoop made the mound sink further. They shouted to the others, "Here, over here." The group worked together now, a mix of desperation and adrenaline driving their movements. They were racing against time, against the inevitable. The beach around them was silent, save for the occasional splash of a wave and the frantic cries of friends. The sand had trapped Risa and Hiroki completely. They were upside down, the weight pressing on their chests, their breaths shallow and frantic. The rigid plastic that Risa had placed to mimic a harmless prank had become a deadly trap. Instead of collapsing safely, it had tilted, sending them tumbling into the pit, the sand burying them completely. By now, frantic calls had been made to the police. Authorities arrived quickly, carrying shovels, flashlights, and a sense of urgency that matched the chaos on the beach. They joined the frantic digging. Shouts mixed with commands. Step back. Move this sand. Where are they? Where are they? Minutes felt like hours. Every shovel full of sand was a gamble between hope and despair. When they finally reached the rigid plastic, partially broken and buried beneath the sand, they found Risa and Hiroki. Still alive? No. They had suffocated under the sand. The horror was immediate. The relief of finding them, non-existent. Instead, there was only silence. The sound of waves. And the realization of a life lost in the blink of an eye. The news of their deaths spread quickly through Kanazawa City. Risa and Hiroki were remembered as a young couple full of life, madly in love, with dreams, plans, and laughter. Their deaths became a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most innocent plans, even those born from love, can spiral into disaster. The police investigation confirmed the details. A hole had been dug on the beach. Risa's plan for a fun prank had gone horribly wrong. The rigid plastic covering, intended to break harmlessly, had instead created a deadly trap. It was a mistake, a tragic miscalculation. But for Risa and Hiroki, it was too late. Sometimes love alone isn't enough. Sometimes excitement and ambition can blind us to danger. Even the best intentions can have consequences we never imagined. The tragedy of Risa and Hiroki's birthday serves as a chilling reminder that life can be fragile, unpredictable, and terrifyingly short. The night returned to Osaki Beach, but it was no longer peaceful. The ocean waves still lapped gently at the shore. But the beach was empty now. No laughter, no excitement, no life. Only the memory of a couple who had walked here, full of joy and love, and never walked back out. Risa and Hiroki Demura, once so full of hope, now existed only in the echoes of that night. The blue sheet, the fireworks, the playful plan, all gone, reduced to a chilling reminder of what can happen when ambition meets miscalculation. In Kanazawa City, neighbors and friends struggled to process the tragedy. How could something so joyful turn into something so horrifying? The local news ran the story for weeks. Discussions spread through social media and local gatherings. People talked about the couple's love, the romantic idea, and how one small detail, a rigid plastic sheet, a dark beach, a misjudged prank, had turned joy into death. It became a conversation about caution, about thinking through risks, about never assuming something harmless is truly safe. Risa's friends, who had been part of the plan, were haunted. They replayed the screams in their minds, the desperate moments digging through sand, the silence that followed. Questions haunted them. Could we have done something differently? Should we have insisted on flashlights? Was there any way to save them? But the truth was brutal. Some accidents are impossible to prevent once the setup is flawed. And sometimes, love itself cannot shield you from fate. This story is not just about a tragic accident. It's a reminder that even the most innocent plans carry risk, that excitement and surprise should never outweigh caution, that tragedy can strike when we assume the world will always bend to our intentions. Risa's plan was born from love, creativity, and joy. But one overlooked factor, a lack of light, a rigid piece of plastic, changed everything. And in an instant, 2 lives were lost. For the audience, the horror is not just in the accident, it's in how quickly life can change, how a moment of joy can turn to tragedy, how love, intention, and creativity are not always enough to protect us. Risa and Hiroki's story lives on as a chilling warning. Even in the happiest of moments, the smallest misstep can have consequences no one could have imagined. Days passed, but the image of Osaki Beach that night never left anyone who had been involved. The sand was smooth again, the waves lapping quietly. But the memory lingered, heavy and suffocating. The authorities had marked the site, but the blue sheet, the rigid plastic, And the small pit remained a silent, deadly reminder. Friends and family could not shake the tragedy. Every laugh, every celebration, every happy birthday would forever carry the echo of what had happened here. What made this story so haunting wasn't just the accident. It was how ordinary it had seemed. A simple plan. A surprise meant to bring joy. A playful idea inspired by a harmless TV show. And yet, in the darkness, under the sand, love had turned into death. It reminded everyone who heard the story, the most ordinary things can hide extraordinary danger. Risa's friends never forgave themselves. They had helped her plan. They had been part of the setup. And they replayed the moment over and over in their minds. Maybe if we had insisted on flashlights. Maybe if we had double-checked the hole. Maybe if we had stayed closer. But in reality, some tragedies cannot be undone. Some accidents cannot be reversed. The realization was brutal. Love, excitement, and good intentions are not always enough to save life. In Kanazawa City, the story of Risa and Hiroki became infamous. People told it with a mixture of horror and sorrow. It became a cautionary tale, whispered at parties, shared in online forums, and told late at night. Be careful with pranks. Think twice before doing anything risky. Even love cannot protect from miscalculation. The tragedy also sparked conversations about planning, safety, and awareness. A moment meant to bring happiness had become a lesson in the fragility of life. Risa and Hiroki's story is terrifying, not just because of the accident, but because it shows how quickly everything can change. One small oversight, one decision made in excitement, one moment of darkness, and life can be gone. For anyone listening, the lesson is clear. Joy should never overshadow caution. Surprises can be beautiful or deadly. And love, no matter how strong, cannot always save us from the consequences of our actions. 2 days before the fateful night, Risa could barely sit still. Her apartment in Kanazawa City was buzzing with activity. Sheets, fireworks, ropes, markers, every item meticulously checked and rechecked. Her friends helped set up. Some were skeptical. "Risa, are you sure this will work?" one whispered. She laughed nervously. "Of course. It's perfect, it's romantic, fun, and he'll never forget it." But deep down, a flutter of anxiety nagged at her. The beach was open, uncontrolled, unpredictable. She pushed the thought away. It will be fine. Everything will be fine. Risa's plan was intricate. 1. Walk Hiroki along the beach at night. 2. Lead him to a secluded spot near the ocean. 3. Step onto a hidden blue sheet, which would trigger a small prank fall. 4. Her friends, hidden in the bushes, would light the fireworks. 5. Laughter, applause, celebration. Every detail seemed perfect in her mind, but she overlooked one crucial factor: the unpredictability of darkness. Even a slight misstep, a misjudged footing, or a heavy piece of sand could turn everything fatal. She thought she had calculated everything. She had not. The night of Hiroki's birthday arrived. The apartment was quiet. Risa acted normal. Dinner was prepared. Hiroki had no idea. Risa's excitement bubbled beneath the surface. Every glance at him made her heart race. Finally, she suggested the beach walk. "It's your birthday weekend," she said softly. "Let's not go to bed yet. Let's go for a walk." Hiroki, calm and trusting, agreed. "It sounds nice," he said. Risa's heart leapt. The plan was in motion. The drive to the beach was uneventful, but the moment they stepped onto the sand, the reality of the situation set in. It was pitch black. No streetlights, no moonlight. Even the faint glow of their phone screens barely illuminated the ground beneath their feet. Risa's heart raced faster. She clutched Hiroki's hand. "Just a little further," she whispered. He hesitated. "Risa, maybe we should wait. Get a flashlight?" "No. My friends are ready," she replied, a note of desperation in her voice. She began walking faster, almost pulling him along. The sand shifted under their feet. Every step felt uneven, treacherous. Every shadow seemed to move. Hiroki's brow furrowed. "This doesn't feel safe," he said. But he followed. They approached the exact spot. The blue sheet lay hidden in the sand, marking the perfect place for the prank. Risa took a deep breath. She stepped forward confidently. Hiroki followed, trusting her completely. Then, in an instant, the sand gave way. The plastic sheet, far sturdier than she had imagined, tilted instead of collapsing safely. Risa and Hiroki fell headfirst into the pit she had prepared. Screams tore through the night. The sound was brief, then silence. Her friends, hidden in the bushes, heard the screams, but could not see. Confused, panicked, they assumed it was part of the prank, until the silence hit. The friends dashed into the darkness, shouting their names, calling, digging, heart-pounding. The sand was heavy, wet, suffocating. Every movement was a struggle. Minutes dragged. They dug frantically, realizing the horrifying truth: the couple was buried. By the time authorities arrived, all hope had vanished. Risa and Hiroki Demura had suffocated under the sand. This was not just an accident. It was a series of miscalculations. Darkness, misjudged materials, overexcitement. A joyful plan, intended to celebrate love, had turned into a fatal trap. Osaki Beach returned to its quiet state. The waves lapped softly at the shore. The wind whispered through the shrubs. But the laughter, the joy, the warmth, was gone forever. 2 lives, full of promise and love, had ended in an instant. The blue sheet, the hidden hole, and the rigid plastic, intended for fun, were now nothing more than silent witnesses. A fatal reminder that even the most innocent plans could have deadly consequences. The news of Risa and Hiroki's deaths spread quickly. Friends replayed the night over and over in their minds. Neighbors whispered about what could have been done differently. But the truth was painfully clear. Some tragedies are beyond prevention. Some accidents cannot be undone. Risa and Hiroki were remembered as a young couple madly in love, full of life and laughter. But their story also served as a chilling warning. Love, excitement, and good intentions cannot always shield us from danger. Even a joyful surprise, even a plan born from creativity and affection, can turn fatal when miscalculation and unpredictability collide. The night of their last birthday was supposed to be perfect. It became a cautionary tale. Always respect the unknown. Always anticipate risk. Even the smallest oversight can be fatal. The terror of this story does not come from ghosts or monsters. It comes from reality, from how quickly life can change, from how love and laughter can vanish in an instant, from how one small mistake, one overlooked detail, can erase everything. For anyone listening, treasure your loved ones, plan carefully. And remember, the line between joy and tragedy is often thinner than we think.